Florida State, and even then, he wasn't even remotely your problem. Remember when people were saying that we're still talking about JD5 after Florida State, like, should we go to Nuss? Guys, and look, I have defended the kid, and he's not a kid, but you know what I mean. I defended the kid more than probably anybody because I could see that the traits that he had. It's not that difficult to see. If you've been around football any part of your life, you know that kid can do things. I think he's going to have a massive game against Bama. He's going to have to use his legs more than he's used all year, in my opinion. He's got to get on the run. He has the potential to be and have that game. I, at the current moment, think he is I don't want to say only key. He's not the only key, but he's a massive part of that key, if not 2/3 of the key for you walking out of there with a win anyway. He's got to go off. And look, I had somebody at lunch today. So I went to lunch with a buddy of mine, and we're sitting, and I'll tell you where we were at. We were at Goodwood Grill and Baton Rouge. And I'm sitting there, and somebody walks up to me, introduces himself or whatever, and says, do you really think that Jayden Daniels is going to live up to the pressure that everybody's putting on him? Like, hey, this is your Heisman game. Well, all I know is all last year, the damn near, not really, but at least half the fan base wanted him to get canned for Nussmeier anyway. And the dude, all he did all season was go to work, put his head down, gain weight, get stronger, get more aware of his surroundings, get better at knowing the offense that he is just coming into. Yeah, I think he's built the pressure because you wanted him benched a year ago. More than half of you wanted him benched just literally this time last year. Maybe a little bit before that, because since the Florida game, Jayden really kind of has been going off. Like, I might do a stat tomorrow morning, like, what's Jayden Daniels' stats since Florida? Like, what's his last 14 games look like? What's his last 10 games look like? Would be something. It would absolutely 1,000% be something if he does. I don't understand the disrespect. I don't know if it's disrespect, because a lot of people still have him up there. How you don't have him at 1 at this exact moment? Because here's the truth. If LSU walks away with a win and he throws for 300 yards, runs for 75 to 100, has 3 or 4 touchdowns, and he wins, he's going to be number 1, and there's no way on God's green earth he can't be number 1 in everybody's board. Now, here's what I would tell you more than anything, okay? Regardless if he wins the Heisman or not, remember the thought process that you had around Joe Burrow, like, man, we might not ever see this again. Well, 5 years later, you do have that. And playing to the level that he's playing at, right? Like, playing at that level, it's not like, guys, do you know how many teams would love even somewhat half of what he's doing? I guarantee you that Georgia wouldn't mind it, because he's doubled the touchdowns that Carson Beck has all year. Doubled. Okay? Now, Carson Beck's up there in yards, but there's no team. There's maybe 2 or 3 teams in the country right now that would want their quarterback over Jayden Daniels. And the only reason I throw Michael Penix in there is because he's in that conversation too. I don't think USC really would want to give away Caleb Williams, even though Jaden's playing better than him right now. Name another. It doesn't come. I think Brian Kelly hit the nail on the head when he said, look, man, you better cherish this team offensively, because it doesn't come around too often. You do get a guy like Bryce Underwood. Maybe you do get it sooner than maybe you expect. But LSU, to an extent, if you are a good quarterback, this is the pledge that I give. Somebody clip this and send it to Bryce Underwood. There's no other team in the country, regardless if you look at star rating, it doesn't matter what you look, you should look at history. If I'm Bryce Underwood and I say, yeah, well, that guy was a 3-star and he came up through LSU and his name was Justin Jefferson. There are dudes all around you offensively. You got to go take it and seize it. All right. Adrian Bailey sends a $4.99 super chat, says RG3 was 9-3 in his Heisman year when he won it, it would be hypocritical of the Heisman trust in media if he doesn't win or at least get invited. Thank you for the super chat, Adrian. 1,000% agree. And you know who else did the same exact thing? His name was Tim Tebow. This isn't uncalled for. But guys, we have not lost 3 games yet. Right? Like, I still believe that you can go into Tuscaloosa and win. I still believe that you can win out. You have a path. You can beat every team on your schedule. You have all the ability in the world to beat every team on your schedule. Every single team. There's not one, because of this offense, there's not one team on your schedule left that says, oh, well, if LSU beat them, oh, well, you know, I just didn't see that coming. There's nobody saying that. Who? Florida? A&M? Who? Who in the Rudy Poo? Who in the Rudy Poo? Oh, by the way, the last 4 games are at home. Yes, indeed. You gotta love it, man. You gotta love it. Our next 3 games are at home after that? Would it be 3 games after that? Yeah. Okay. Nevertheless. All right, I do want to talk about this because this came to my attention. Actually, you know what? Pause that. No. Well, it would fit better with the show. Let me do this. Let's go by the numbers really quickly because it fits in context, and I'll get to this Rufino's rants. So about 2 years ago, somebody came to me and said, hey, man, look, you talk numbers, you give stats, but you don't ever like go by the numbers and what you think of them. Can you do that segment? We've done the segment every single year. We continue to do this segment every year. If you hadn't watched by now, let me tell you what stops us from doing it. Unless LSU is just really bad in one area, like catastrophically bad, because if we do that, you already know how bad they are. Now, we'll talk about it through the other process. We did that literally with the defense after the Auburn game. This LSU offense ranks first in everything. They're number 1 in total offense. They're number 1 on third down offense. They're number 1 in first downs. They're number 1 in third down completion percentage. They convert 57.8% of the time. They are in the top 5 or top 10 in rushing. They're top 7 in the nation in passing, meaning total yards passed. You have the number 1 quarterback in the country in every statistical category that matters. Offensively, you're the best team in the country. So that's what I talk about. It's not just me coming out here with being a talking head and hot air and just saying whatever in the hell I want to say. The numbers back it up. Like, in this offense's worst game, they still scored 24 points. Should have scored more. Okay. They had no help defensively in the second half. They should have. And if they did, they would have beaten Florida State. This team, man, this offense, it's amazing. You know, I'm not saying that Florida State and Auburn in 2019 and Florida State this year are the same team. They're not. But teams are going to have lower scoring games. You went to Mississippi State and they kept you in the 30s too, right? In that 2019 year, you're going to have, quote unquote, to your standards, down games. You're going to have down games. It's not always going to work like that. 552.9, so let's just call it 553 yards per game. I know this is the one thing that I hate that I get ripped on. I don't really say, if somebody disagrees with me, I don't really go back into the chat and disagree with them. But for whatever reason, I will say LSU's averaging 553 yards per game, and somebody would say, yeah, they're actually averaging 552.9 yards. Yeah, whatever. But they are, if we want to be statistically correct. I'm just rounding up the 0.1. One thing that really bothers me, that really bothers me in reference to what I've seen from LSU so far this year, even though I know that they're getting better as a whole. Guys, you're 96th in the country on third down. That bugs the shit out of me. You're 99th in the country at allowing first downs defensively. You were in the 120s 2 weeks ago, almost dead last. You've given up 158 first downs. You've gained 217 offensively. It just bugs the shit out of me that you came into this year knowing that the one area that you got to get better at is getting off the field on third down. Now, that's a season stat. What's happened the last 3 weeks? Well, the last 3 weeks, you're in the 30s, which would put you in the top 15. So is it that you've found something? Or you playing bad opponents? Is it a mixture of both? But here's the truth. Something's going to have to give next week against Alabama because they're one of the worst offenses in the country offensively on third down. So you got a bad unit on third down and defensively, a really bad unit on third down offensively. Something's got to give. The last time that happened was against Auburn. You had a really bad rush defense, a really bad passing team in Auburn, and a really bad just overall defense in LSU. And LSU clamped them down. Jalen Milroe has more weapons. Jalen Milroe's a better quarterback right now than Peyton Thorne. So I'm not saying that you're going to go into Tuscaloosa and beat him 41-18. But you have won that battle before when it comes to their worst and your worst clashing up against one another. I think it could happen here. I think that you can get off on the field more on third down against Alabama than maybe you would anticipate if you look at the stat that LSU's in the 99th or the 99th team in the country on third down conversion rate defensively. The biggest, so when we do Ruffino and Joe and we talk national, I can't watch every game, but the one stat I'll always go to is third down. Conrad says, stat boy. I don't like being the stat boy. Somebody just asked me to do it a couple years ago, and I obliged. If y'all don't like it, we can go away from doing it. But I do like it. I do like it a lot. Let me do this. I want to get to this Ruffino's rants. Talk about having notes. In case you missed it, today ESPN published an article about the 2019 team and the 2019 game against